You'll agree with me. I thought it would be a cool way to acknowledge our place in classical choral music in California by dedicating a concert to the legacy of California composers. I knew for sure that I wanted one of my teachers on the program, Skip Lorenzson, Dr. Lorenzson to me for so many years. And my favorite piece that he has ever composed is his Midwinter songs. Because like him and me, and probably like you, they are complicated and totally human. They're about flawed people looking for inspiration. And I loved the harmonic language in the piece. I love that there's this driving percussive rhythm to the piece in the first movement, and then the last movement sounds like the Skip Lorenzson that we all know and love from Omagnu Mysterium. It sort of maps out his development in style. It's one of the first pieces he wrote in the early 80s, and he wrote it for the USC Chamber Choir, an ensemble I was proudly a member of while I was studying, doing my doctoral studies at USC. And so I knew I wanted that on the program, and I had encountered this crazy piece by Mason Bates called Mass Transmission. When a few years ago, I was on sabbatical and I heard it in Michigan. My colleague Jerry Blackstone at the University of Michigan was conducting it. And I remember it started and I thought, oh God, what is this going to be? And I found myself entranced and then in tears by the end of it. And I knew I wanted to bring it to you. I always like to find a narrative in these programs that have a number of pieces because I think it helps me connect to the singers and also our audience. And I discovered that every piece I was picking had to do with the transience of time. We are here for such a short time. And we make choices, good choices and bad choices. We make choices based on love and choices based on money and choices based on others. And each piece is about the relationship that we have with time and with other people. The program starts with this beautiful arrangement of an American folk tune, Bright Morning Stars, by my friend Sean Kirchner, who's right now the composer in residence of the LA Master Chorale, and we have performed a number of his pieces. It starts with a pianist and a solo baritone on the stage. And the choir will not be in the house. And the baritone will start singing, bright morning stars are rising, all by himself. You know that tune? Bright morning stars are rising. I love that. There's something about that pentatonic tune that gets to, bright morning stars are rising, day is a breaking in my soul. About the idea about time, the day starting in my soul, right? It's just so lovely. Well, it's a gorgeous piece. I think it's a really interesting way to begin the journey of a concert. And so from that moment, the choir will process to the stage throughout the piece. David Clemenson has a couple really beautiful, simple piano solos in the middle of the piece. And we will segue directly into Frank Ticheli's beautiful piece about stars. So get the idea about stars. And the poetry is all about the fact that there will always be stars, long after we're here, long after the street we live on, the house we live in are gone. So talking about connection to the past, our mothers, our children, our fathers, and the transience of time right away at the beginning. That's how we introduce, our musicians will introduce you to the concept of the concert. After that piece, and by the way, Frank is going to be there, and so is Sean. I'm so excited about that. And Frank has had such a long relationship with us and with Orange County. And then we'll sing Skip's Midwinter songs. And the Midwinter songs start off with a bang, in a fury. The choir demands, dying sun, shine warm a little longer. Give me more time. Give me more time. And he sets the poetry of Robert Graves, and it is fantastic poetry. It's complicated poetry. I guess just like all of us. And the piano part, Skip wrote for himself, and so it's very complicated. And our own David Clemenson is playing the heck out of it. It's stunning. It's just gorgeous, and he has a number of big solos. And I'm so thrilled to be able to feature our collaborative artist in that way in this concert. I think also is a recognition of the kind of artistry that we have here at Pacific Chorale. So that's the end of the first half. And then the second half starts with a piece by a young woman named Dale Trumbore, who is one of Skip Lordson's students. And you can hear in the piano part sounds from the Midwinter Song. It's very interesting music, and the poetry by Barbara Cook is gorgeous. It's very modern poetry. And it starts off with the words, "In the middle of a life that is complicated as everyone else's, struggling for balance." That's the first thing that the choir sings to the audience, talking about how fast time goes. And she says, in the middle of the poem, she says something about, "I feel as if the snow was just on the ground, and now spring is here." Talks about, our children are gone, our children have grown, our parents are gone, where's the time gone? And she plays with time moving forward and backwards, both in rhythm and tempo, which is driving the choir crazy. But it is a really cool piece. And we'll have a segue directly from Dale's piece into a work that Tarek O'Regan composed. And you say, why is Tarek O'Regan on a California composer concert? Well, primarily because he couldn't come to the fall performance, but also because this piece was perfect for this position. And he can come to this performance, and he will be there. And he is a California composer now, for a variety of reasons, which he can tell you when he comes. But this piece is Neruda poetry, and it is about, again, time, but in a big sense. And the way we use time to tell stories, sometimes tell lies, and how we can find truth and love in that situation. And then the piece after that is this very special work by Mason Bates. The piece is a story about the very first transcontinental radio communication, direct radio communication, between a mother in the Netherlands and the daughter she hasn't seen in a decade in Java. Hello, where did my brain go now? In Java. And the daughter has been working, she says in the poetry, this is a big honor for my daughter to be selected by the government to work in Java, but it's hard on the mother. And she has an opportunity, and this is the very first time recorded, and Mason took actual snippets from the recorded, they actually wrote down the dialogue of what was said between the two people. So Mason transcribed some of that and put it into the poetry about the first time a mother talks to her beloved daughter in over a decade. And this connects again with our issue of time and how precious it is. Maybe the mother didn't realize how important every moment was with her daughter when she had it. But she does understand it throughout the piece and talks about how Java lies in the deepest place of a mother's heart now, because she got to hear her child's voice. So you can hear how this all plays together. And it makes it very personal, the idea of time, and how we connect with our families and our loved ones. And so that's the thread that runs through the performance. Really excited about the program, not just because I get to work with these amazing artists, but because of the sentiment of the program, and I think the fact that we're presenting something totally new that hasn't been heard in that concert hall. Electric dance music with Pacific Chorale. And it's going to make people cry. I can't wait. When we come to the concert preview, I'm going to have, of course, Skip Lordson was supposed to be there, and then he called me. He's getting a honorary doctorate in Pennsylvania. And he apologized, so he's not going to be there. But Frank DeKelly and Tarek O'Regan and Dale Trimbor and Sean Kirchner will be there. And Mason is DJing somewhere, so he can't be there with us. But we're going to have a really cool conversation about being a composer and living in California and what that means and how they've formed their careers. And then I think we're going to have a really amazing experience together in the concert hall.